All right, guys, I'm on here live. Let's wait for people to come on. Let's see. It sounds like people outside are getting really loud. My neighbors are so freaking loud sometimes. All right. Okay. We see somebody on. All right, guys, I'm on. Okay. Tonight I'm taking readings by donation only. I have to. I usually don't do it this way, and usually when I do decide to like do donations, I end up giving free readings. Okay. Tonight is going to be very, very different. I'm trying to reach my $100 mark. If I don't reach that $100 mark, um, I may not be able to read for about a week or two. Okay, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't know that my internet bill was actually due the 16th, and they know I don't get paid till like the 28th. So, and I was talking to the guy, he hung up on me, and now I can't get through because they're going to be closed till Monday. So if I don't pay before midnight, I get shut off. So I'm going to be here. I will write everybody's name down, but I have to reach my $100 mark, or I'm not going to be able to do any more live readings for you guys. If I do, I would have to go to my mom's. And if I go over there, there's like a lot of people over there. I really don't want to have to read over there because I'm going to be interrupted. You guys aren't going to have privacy. There'll be people coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And it will be really loud. And I would rather not read there. So the only way I can really do this, guys, I have to meet my $100 mark by before midnight, okay? And if I meet that, if I can match that, and get that paid before midnight, okay, I'll be able to come on and still do live readings for you guys. If not, then we're talking about maybe a week and a half to 2 weeks that I probably won't be able to come on and read at all for you guys. I see Amber McLurkin. Okay. So what I'm doing is tonight, okay, and just so you guys know, after this, okay, I'm gonna come on. I'm still gonna do free readings, okay. Tonight though is donation only, just so I can pay that bill and be able to read for you guys and still do live free readings, okay. Um, I usually don't come on. I usually don't ask like this. I have asked for like $5, $3 readings before, but I ended up what I ended up doing, guys, is I ended up doing free readings. Okay. I have had people who have donated, um, and I have had people who have sent gifts. Um, but yeah, tonight, guys, I got to meet this $100 mark. If not, it'll probably be like a week or two before I'll be able to do a live reading. Um, Other than that, I'll have to try to figure something out to be able to read for you guys, but it's not going to be like every day, and I really don't want to have to do that to you guys. But it is what it is, so I'm trying to come on here and I'm trying to reach this mark, okay? So what I'll do, guys, is I'll write your names down on this paper here. Those of you who decide that you're going to donate, okay, just so I can meet this mark, I'll write your name down, and let's see, depending on how many people, okay, come through and want a reading, I'll write every one of your names down, okay? And what I'll do is I'll do every single one of you guys that I have written down. I'll do a reading for every single one of you guys tonight, okay? But it will have to be donation only. until I reach that $100 mark. Once I reach that $100 mark, um, it'll be over, okay? And then in the morning, if I can reach this $100 mark before midnight, if I can reach that mark before midnight, okay? What I'll do is I'll come on in the morning and do free readings, okay? But if I don't reach it by midnight, I won't be able to come on in the morning and do these free readings, okay? I will be shut off. So that's what I'm trying to do right now. So if you guys can help or somebody can help just with donation only, I will give you a reading. And depending on how much is donated, okay, I can make it worth your while on a reading, okay? So let's just wait. I think I need some water, guys. I'm like really thirsty. Oh, I'm really, really thirsty. Whew. Thank you, Amber McLurkin, for joining. I hope you can get something from this live reading. So let me help you guys out. Right here, I'm going to put all the information right here. So right now, tonight, all we're going to be focusing on is meeting this donation mark, okay? Now, it'll have to be like $10 and up is what the reading will be. So whatever you guys can donate just to help out the channel so I'm able to do live readings for you guys, okay? And tomorrow morning I will come on. I will still do these free readings. And I'll continue to come on and do free readings, okay? It's just I have to meet this $100 mark so they don't shut my internet off, okay? Because once that gets shut off at midnight, I won't be able to read anymore for you guys. I'll have to like go somewhere else where I have internet, okay? And I really don't want to go to my mom's to do that. I would rather do it here in the privacy of my own home. Let's see. Now I'll put all the information here below, guys, just so you guys know. Let's see, which is listed there in the description. It's there in the title, okay? But okay, so let's see. See. Okay. And then we have, let's see, one more. Sorry, my neighbors are so loud, guys. I apologize. Let's see, that would be here. Reader. /888. All right. So this is the information, guys, right here to make it easy for you guys. All right. So whoever does donate, okay, it has to be a $10 and up, okay? And I will do a reading for you. I'll write your name down, okay? All right, and we will do one at a time. But again, I'll have to have this done before midnight because I believe I'll get shut off at midnight. Maybe just a little after midnight, might be midnight. I don't know, guys, so we'll wait this out. Boy, I needed some water. All right, and guys, just so you know, I will be on tomorrow morning. So whoever can help with donations, I surely appreciate it, guys, because this is going to save me from having to figure out where I can go to do readings. Hold on, guys. We'll get your backpack, babe. And you guys need to get ready for bed, okay?
Joe took this one, Sophia.
Oh, well, we'll figure it out, okay, Sissy?
Mommy, you know where my creeper is?
What creeper, baby?
My light green one at the bottom.
All right, hold on. I need you to go out for a second, okay? Because I'm talking to people right now. Okay, I need you to go out for a minute. So, guys, let me show you, okay, what we're looking at. Just so you know I'm telling the truth. And that I'm not hoaxing nobody, okay? And go, guys. Okay. Shut the door. Thank you, babies. All right, let me show you guys, okay, just so you know I'm telling the truth. So I did try to do like...
I need to ask you something. Can I take a bath?
I don't care, baby. But
So
you need to take a bath and then get in your bed.
Can Joe take a bath with me?
No, he cannot. He's too old to be... you guys are too old to take a bath together.
Please?
No, not happening.
Then when I turn 7?
Listen. What?
Then when I
Go on. Okay, guys. So let me show you what we're looking at. I can't really show you my account information. But look, guys. Okay, this is my name. Just so you know, I'm not trying to lie or nothing, okay? I can't show you my account. Let's see. Here at the top, let's see. We have AT&T, okay? Just so you know, I'm telling you guys the truth. Let me see. Then we have here, make a payment. Oh God, hold on, guys. This is gonna be very difficult doing this. Okay, hold on. Trying to show you guys, I'm telling the truth. Okay, and I really do need help here, okay, reaching this mark. There's my name. Here's the current balance right now. That's the past due. Okay, so I need to reach this mark right here before midnight. That's my current balance, okay? Very embarrassing though. I did try to get it to like take 20 right now. It won't even take that. It's saying that I have to do at least the current amount right now. Or not current, the past due. The past due of 186. Just so I can keep my internet on and so I can continue to come on and do these live readings for you guys. Let's see. Let me see. Let me go back here. Okay, there we are. Okay, so I did show you guys, just so you know, I'm not lying. We have it right there. All right, so now you guys know, okay? So I guess I got it like come up with 186 and then they won't shut me off. But I have to have that paid, they said today. So I'm guessing before midnight. So midnight I'll probably get shut off, okay guys? So I'll just stay here with you guys. And hopefully reach that mark before midnight. All right. And it's whatever you guys can like donate, okay? And if you can't, it's all right. I'll probably have to wait for like 2 weeks, okay? Because I get paid in like almost 2 weeks, right? It's like a week and a few days, something like that. The 28th? I don't know. When's the 28th? Let me see. So it'll be like midnight before the 28th is when I get paid. So let's see. That'd be about a week and 5 days. So what I'll have to do is just wait it out. You guys just won't be able to have a reading from me probably for a week and 4 or 5 days. Until I make that payment, which I'll probably make that payment at midnight before the 28th. If I can make my mark, my $100 mark, then they're not going to shut me off. They'll give me till the 28th to pay the rest. So they will let me pay a partial. I was trying to set up a payment plan and the guy hung up on me. And he hung up on me to switch me over and the offices just closed. Which I was supposed to talk to him about my bill. And he was talking to me because I was switched over to him. He tried to switch me somewhere else. So it was a big, huge misunderstanding, everything. So we'll just figure this out together, guys. But if I can reach that $100.86 mark, I did put 101 on here just because of the 86, you guys. Okay, so I just rounded it off. But yeah, all of that will go towards this internet just so I can read for you guys in the morning and every day after, continue to read for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we're just trying to meet that mark.
There you go. Thank you. You're welcome.
And guys, I never really come on like late like this. I have before, but you know, here recently I've just been coming on in the morning when my kids are in school. So I'll just stay here with you guys until I guess it cuts off or till I meet this $100 mark, okay? Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Excuse me. Woo. All right. I'll be right back, guys. All right, guys. Let's see here. Man, my nose is like dripping right now. See? Let's grab one of these incense. Oh gosh, why is my nose so draining? All right, I'm back, guys. I think my allergies caught up with me. All right, I'm back. Let's see here. Move all this. See, nobody's messaged yet. Let's see. Okay.
Are you supposed to be in there with the toys? Or did your mom tell you to keep your toys?
Alright. Every time I do this, guys, it sets my alarms off. Ooh, spirits are entering.
She's always having to clean up after
Alright,
you.
so let me put this over here. Alright. I really, really don't want that to.
You left cards in the kitchen. Your mom had to clean them up.
Okay. These over here. Alright.
We're in there playing with your cards.
Let's go ahead and light an incense. This one's for wealth, luck, and prosperity. Okay. So I'm actually burning this incense for you guys, okay? And the Palo Santo. Boy, man, my nose is stuffy tonight. Okay, so let me see if this volume is up. I think it is, but I don't know if it's like up all the way. No, it was not. Okay, so let's see. Okay. There we go, guys. Whoa, why do I keep doing that? me go ahead and type everything again below. Okay, I'm going to write right here exactly how much I have to have. There we go. Just so you guys know, right here. And this is why I'm asking, guys, is so I can continue to read, okay? So I did show you guys the proof, okay, from AT&T that is where this is going to, okay? It's nothing fake. It is authentic. It is my real AT&T account, okay? But if I don't meet this match, I will not be able to come on. I will be shut off, okay? So I don't know if they shut me off at midnight or if they're going to shut me off sometime tomorrow. I have no idea when it's going to go off, guys. So I'll just see, okay, if we can reach this mark. All right, guys. So my nephew and my brother said they were having internet problems, and I went on my Google account, and that's when I seen that I had a bill due that I didn't. They were supposed to make my bill due for the 28th, and they didn't do that. I've asked them several times, and they still haven't done this, so I've just been fighting with them about, when I can pay my bill. And what happens is sometimes, more than likely, they end up giving me like a late bill just because of when I get paid. I can't help it when I get paid, but I don't get paid till, the end of the month, the fourth Wednesday of every month. So, makes it very, very complicated, okay, when it comes to paying your bills, because a lot of places like to have that bill in before the 28th. So it makes it really hard for me. So what I have to do is I have to pay everything early. But last month I had so many bills, right, that it made it very difficult for me to be able to pay everything at that time. So basically, I'm stuck making like 2 payments. So I can pay this, but then they might end up giving me till like the 28th to pay the other bill. Usually they give me a while. But I at least have to make this payment. the guy, that was supposed to be working with me, he hung up the phone and then they like closed. So I'm like stuck now.
Oh, yeah? Joe. 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 That is interesting for a cat. Yep.
All right, so let's see here. Go back, guys. All right. We will wait, guys. Okay, so I did message this to a few people I know. Um,
Jack Sparrow.
all right, and let's see. Kids have karate in the morning at 10 a.m., so I am going to be exhausted, guys. I can tell you that. Let's see. So if I'm not able to come on in the morning because they shut me off, okay, I do apologize, guys, okay? Let's see. Okay, so let's see.
Yeah, Mike's
Okay, hold on, guys.
finally, I'm not the only one that has symptoms in your head. Yes. I like it though.
Let's see. Let's see.
Here. Yeah, the other one makes fun. This one is 5. That one is 3.
Okay, let's see. That's not what I was supposed to do, guys. I wasn't supposed to message that third one. I was supposed to hit copy or something. But it's all right. Let's see. My neighbors are just so loud. I can hear them even talking outside. Okay. Let's see here.
Vroom, vroom.
These are actually the only apps I have where people can actually donate to me. I used to have PayPal. I no longer have that one anymore, okay? Let's see. Let's see. Whoop. I don't know why they're being so loud in there, guys. I do apologize. Okay, give me a second. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now you guys know what's going on. Alright, just wait. Give me 1 second, guys. I'll be right back. I'm going to see if I can get them quiet in there. All right, guys, I'm back. Let's see. Forgot any messages? Okay. Guys, I didn't even notice that till, oh God, till tonight. It was sometime tonight that I just noticed that too, that I didn't make that payment. So I do apologize for that, guys. If I'd have known that, I would have called them like a lot sooner. They email me, but sometimes it don't come in till later. So I do know that my nephew was saying he was having internet problems, and I guess that's why. I know mine is showing full bars right now, but I guess that's why. So if I can reach this mark, I'm surprised you're up this late. Hello again. Hello, Danielle. The reason I came on, I usually don't come up on this late. I got kiddos and everything. So I went to check my Google account because for my internet, because my nephew said he was having internet problems. So I went to check it, and it was actually, my bill was actually due today. And so I was talking to the guy. I didn't even look at it till tonight because they told me tonight. So I went to check just to see what the heck was going on. And I guess, my bill was due today. And I didn't know it because I do know every time I speak to these guys at AT&T, I always tell them, I don't get paid till like the end of the month. So, I won't get paid till like the 28th. So, which makes it very difficult for me to pay anything. So if I don't meet this, what is it, $100.86 is what I'm trying to reach. Then what they're gonna do, they'll probably either shut me off at midnight or sometime tomorrow. I have no idea exactly what time it's gonna go off. So I just figured I'd come on and try to see if I could get some help somewhere, donations or something, to try to be able to pay this bill so I can still do free live readings for you guys. So that's why I'm up late. Oh my, it's terrible. What I did do is I did go on I get paid at the beginning of the month, but I also work part-time. I'm battling same unknown autoimmune problem. Oh, I see. Oh my. Prayers for you, Danielle. I don't get paid on the 1st. I get paid at like the 28th. I get paid at the end of the month. So, I mean, I did have a friend, or do have a friend I could borrow it from. I don't like to call him just because he charges me a huge fee every time I borrow. So I would rather not borrow. But yeah, it'll keep me from reading for you guys for at least till the 28th or after. Because I get paid that day, and that day is really busy. That's why I said it'd be really hard for me to come on the 28th and read. Even though I'll pay that bill, it'd be hard to come on and read that day because that day is the day I pay all my bills. So I get it all done. You get paid on the 3rd. All right, so I get paid on like the 4th Wednesday. So I did call my mom, my dad. I was trying to do like a payment of 20. It won't let me. I don't know why. It's being awful right now. So yeah, I will get it paid. Wish I would have known this 2 days ago because I could have helped. My mama said the same thing. She said, if you'd have told me 2 days ago I had the money. Oh my gosh, I seriously would help in a heartbeat. I know you would, hon. And I know that's the truth. I know you would. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, trying to reach that mark. If I could reach that mark, then I can still come on and read for you guys. I really hate not being able to come on and read for you guys because I really love doing that. I know I get negative people on there sometimes, but I don't go on and read for all the negative people. It's the positive people that keep me going. You know what I mean? People like you keep me going. So, what I'm going to try to do is reach my mark before midnight so I can make that payment just so they don't shut me off. But if I do get shut off by midnight, I do apologize, but hopefully I won't. Hopefully I'll have time to reach that mark. But I didn't meet you, then just met you today. I know, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I completely understand that. I could like borrow from somebody and give it back because I get paid the 28th, so I would be able to give it back. But I really don't want to have to borrow it like from my friend. I mean, he charges me an arm and a leg, literally. He used to work for ConocoPhillips, and what he did is he filed all of their taxes and their tax returns, their papers. And so he's used to doing that, and he also worked as a loan representative or something like this. He had a really big job. So he's used to charging people for loans. So he'll let friends and family, people like that, borrow from him, but he charges them this huge fee. Oh my. I wanted to tell you about that. If that person that was being a jerk earlier watched the reading you gave me today, his hair would stand up. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That is true. That is true. I was telling my brother about, I didn't go into deep details or nothing, but he almost started crying when I told my brother. But sometimes we can't help what comes out. Whatever comes out, it is the truth. I do know that. So I stick by that. And when I first started doing these readings and everything, I started off, honestly, I'll be honest. I started off as a wanting to learn with you guys, but also as a teacher. So at the same time, I wanted to be able to teach people how to do a reading so they wouldn't have to pay people to get a reading. That was my whole intentions of when I started, was to be able to teach people how to read for themselves so that they don't have to pay people to read for them. Um, and as I started doing this and teaching them how to do these readings, I was going live, and people would just started coming on and wanted a reading, and they wanted me to do live readings. So I was like, well, this whole time I started this channel, I wanted to teach you guys how to do it and how to do these readings so that you don't have to pay people for a reading. That way you can read for yourself. And instead, they wanted me to read for them. So I was like, well, you know what? Maybe the people's deciding where this channel's going. And so maybe I'm just meant to read live readings for people. And that's just, where I went from there. There were times I came on, I would post for a $3, $5, or $10 reading. What I ended up doing though is I started feeling really bad for people, because I really, really don't like asking people, So there are those who do or will donate, something every now and then. Most of the time, people won't donate just because the people that come to me for readings, they don't really have a lot of money. And some of them will donate if they have it, but a lot of them, they really won't. They just get the free reading and they're done. And it's all right. But so what I would do is I would post, a donations only, and then what I ended up doing is just giving free readings. Even though I was asking for a donation, I just decided, I can't do this. I'll just do a free reading. So I just ended up giving everybody a free reading, even though I was asking for donations, just because I really care about people. And I understand how some people, don't really have a lot, and they really don't have anything to help. Um, and some of them, if they did have it, they would help. But a lot of them, they really don't have it. So I really think a lot about people. And if I were in their situation, you know what I mean? But so, yeah. So that's why I do free readings all the time. Sometimes I get criticized for doing free readings because I'm not charging like everybody else does. But I really, really don't like doing that. I like giving the free readings. I like coming on live, communicating with everybody. Because I figure, if people have it, then they would help. But a lot of people that come to me, they really don't have anything. Why don't you have that money symbol underneath on your live? I have no idea. I don't know. Like a lot of the readers do, it's so much easier than the Cash App and all that other stuff. I really don't know about the technical detail. When it comes to all of that, I don't know how to do all of that. Let's see, like a lot of readers do. I've lost a lot of hope in humanity, unfortunately, but I'm going to school to become a therapist. Oh, wow, that is awesome. Somehow I got to figure out how to get that back because right now I'm completely lost. Oh, no. Well, if you watch like my beginning of my readings when I was teaching people, you could learn from me on those videos, how to read the cards. And then you can also get books and stuff and learn about that. And you could become a reader yourself. And at the same time, if you'd be into something like that, and at the same time, do like your therapist job too. But that would help you kind of like build up until then. I do know you have to have, what is it, 50 subscribers in order to go live. So you do got to build your channel up and get 50 subscribers, then you can go live. But that'd be if you were into something like that. There are other channels probably here on YouTube that could also help you when it comes to learning how to read the cards. There's certain books you can buy that also help you with that too. So that could be beneficial if you were into something like that. Um, I don't even know how to turn that money symbol on my chat. I have no idea how to do that. That would have to be something I would have to Google to even find out how to turn that on. You had a deck. Oh, wow, that's cool. I do know what I'm going to start doing, though, is, see, what I do is I order cards all the time, and sometimes I end up with doubles. So what I'm gonna, start doing, I have just given away a free deck of cards, but as I buy cards and I end up with doubles, so those doubles that I get, I'm gonna start giving them away free on my channel, so you guys will have an opportunity to get a free deck of cards. Um, and I will have other things too that I will be giving away on my channel. So yeah, there's a lot of things I've been thinking of lately and thinking about doing, and just giving away to people for a free gift. So that's another thing that will be coming up on this channel soon. So I do know I'll be giving away like free deck of cards, and then there's going to be other stuff too. So you might watch out for that. Gosh, I was really thirsty tonight. I just went through a whole bottle of water. I was so thirsty. Ah. All right. Oh, this was a really big day. Do you consider yourself a medium? When I was little, I was sitting in front of the window, and I was just staring out there for like hours. This is when it like all started with me. Nobody ever told me that I was clairvoyant or medium, anything like this. Okay, so I was, when I was little, able to see spirits. Our house was built on Indian territory, so it was built in the 1800s, and it was built on Indian grounds where a lot of people had died. And so I think I was like 5 years old. And my dad bought the house when I was like 5. And there was a big, huge hole that my dad and grandpa, they were demolishing certain parts of the house to remodel. And this big, huge hole was in the wall. And for like, I want to say about 2 or 3 days, I kept staring at this wall. And this man that I could like see through kept telling me, "Can you go get something for me? I left it there in the hole." So this guy keeps telling me this. And I kept thinking, okay, well, the guy's there. I can hear him. And some of these spirits I could see, some of them I couldn't. But this guy was just talking to me and telling me he left something in that hole that I needed to get it out. So I didn't reach in there for like, I think it was almost like 3 days. It could have been 5 days, but I do know I was 5 years old. And so that last time, he told me, he says, if you don't go and get it out, he said, it will never be found. He said, I need to be released. My spirit needs to be free, and I need to know that it's found. And so I was like, okay, I'll go up there. Because I was thinking, well, maybe this is just all in my head, because I was 5. I didn't know what the heck was going on. I was 5. So I go up there, and it felt like ashes inside this dry wall. There was wood. There was no insulation, but it was really cold, ice cold. So he tells me, he says, put your hand through. He said, and when you feel the spot, I'll tell you when you have it. He said, then I want you to cup your hand like this. So he's mentally telling me what to do. So I'm like, okay. So I put my hand through the wall and I'm digging. He says, keep going further back. You're almost there. So I get further back, and I finally touched something. He said, that's it, grab it. So I put my hand around it and cupped it like he told me to. He says, now pull your hand out. So I pulled my hand out, and it was a box cutter knife, real old one. It said 1800s, okay? This one had like 6 holes on both sides, so 6 here on the top. When you turn it over, it had 6 here. It had the replaceable blade and everything inside. And he told me to go up to my grandpa and try to get his attention. He said, if he ignores you and he doesn't talk to you, then ask to talk to your dad. So I was like, Papa. And he kept brushing me off. He wouldn't listen. And I kept saying, Papa, I got to tell you something. And then the man said, he didn't hear you. It's not meant for him. He said, now go to your dad. So I went to my dad and I said, Dad, and I kind of tapped him like I did my grandpa, but my grandpa didn't listen. So my dad says, yep. I said, and then I waited for what the man was going to tell me. And he's like, give it to your dad because he heard you. So I was like, here, Dad, this is yours. And my grandpa was like, why didn't you give that to me? And I was like, well, Papa, I tried to talk to you, but you didn't hear me, and Dad did. And I said, and it's meant for Dad. He said, who told you that? I said, the man who lost his knife in the hole. He says, what? A man lost his knife in the hole? And Dad says, what? Where did you get this? And I told him that the man told me he lost it in the wall. My dad said, are you kidding me? He says, you dug this out of that hole? I said, the man told me to. He said, what man? I said, I don't know, but he's not here. So my grandpa was like, well, Jack, I believe your daughter speaks to spirits. He says, but apparently they're talking to her from beyond the grave. So this was somebody who, it was his knife, but he had been dead, I guess, since the 1800s or before, something like this. So yeah, that was kind of trippy for everybody. I do know another time I was 8 and I was pulled out of my window when I was staring for like hours. I get called to my aunt's house, and I heard everything she was talking about, and it was negative. She was talking about my mama and everything, and Jesus pulled me through the wall and went flying with me all the way to her house because I was like, he says, do you know where we're going? And I said, yes, but he told me not to look at him. I couldn't look at his face. Um, and so he took me there, and he took me right through the brick wall and through her window into her house, and I could hear everything she was saying about my mama. And she was planning on surprising my mama because she thought my mama's house was dirty. Well, my mama's house was clean. My mama worked her butt off. My mama had 5 kids. She was like, we're gonna catch her with a dirty house. I was hearing horrible things. So I seen all of her kids there. Her house was dirty, but she was talking bad on my mama. And she told her daughter to go get some clothes. She says, Mama, I don't have no clean clothes. She says, well, go get them out of the laundry room. She says, well, they're all in the dirty pile because they're all dirty. She says, I don't care. Get you something. Get the cleanest outfit you can find. And I'm like, and I looked up, at the man, Jesus, who had brought me her. Yeah, I figured it was Jesus. To me, it was Jesus. I was little. So I was like, I told him, I said, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go home to my mama. So I was really sad because they were saying really terrible things about my mom. Well, she was about my mom. And I seen what vehicle she got in. When I got there, I told my mom that Jesus told me that she crashed her vehicle and that she's coming up there with all of her kids. I saw her load up all her kids, right? And she had a big white van. And so my mom was like, okay, so she waited, and my aunt shows up, right, with all of her kids. My mom turned around and looked at me. She says, oh my God. She says, Brandy, how did you know that? I said, I told you, Jesus told me. She says, where is your other vehicle? She said, I wrecked it. And my mama just looked at me, and she said, from that point on, she listened to me. So, I mean, I've had several situations, and I do know me and my husband, ex-husband, who was very abusive, we were living at a house, and a little boy spirit called me out by the fence to plant these grapes. I was going to plant a grapevine. And instead, I'm digging up, and I think I'm finding all of these toys, and I felt like something. I got this burst of energy, right? And after I was like, man, I found a toy train. I found a little toy car. I felt like I was a kid. And I'm playing with all of these toys. And then when I got to looking at the last one I dug up out of the ground, it turned out to be bones. And they were in my backyard under my fence. And I started seeing everything, flashes of what happened, everything. So I called the police. It happened to be Halloween night. So they were all laughing at me. They thought it was a prank. They were making fun of me. So the officer comes out and he says, where did you find these? And I said, over by the fence. He says, well, from now on, do not touch them. He said, because we can tag you for murder or suspect of murder. He said, those bones make a lot of sense. And I said, what do you mean? He said, if you felt like you were a kid when you were digging them up, he said, those bones are a 12-year-old boy. He said, we wondered where that boy went. He said, what did you feel when, you came across these? I said, I felt like he lived in that house next door to me. He said, show me. And the house that I pointed at, he said, that's exactly where that boy lived. His mother was a nurse. So they knew the mother wasn't abusive, but the stepfather was. He says, do you see anything else? I said, yes. I said, he used a weapon to separate the bones. He said, we got a call years ago about a boy who came up missing, and we believed, but we couldn't prove it, but we believed the boy was murdered by his stepdad. And I said, I can show you where that murder weapon is. There was a knife, and there was, what was it? A saw and something else to break the bones. But anyway, I told him I could show him where all of those weapons were. And he told me, he says, you know what? He says, no. He said, put the bones back, bury them back like they were. He said, and put a little marker there and just say a prayer over it. He said, that boy wanted you to find him. He said, you know, we actually come to people like you to help solve murder cases. And I was like, people like me, what do you mean? He said, nobody's ever told you what you are when you do stuff like this? And I was like, no, I don't know. And he said, you're a clairvoyant, you're a medium. Only people like you can do stuff like this. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, communicate with the dead and be able to actually know exactly where everything's buried. And right after that, my ex-husband now decides he wants to go in the woods. And I kept saying, no. Because spirits have always called out to me since I was a little girl. And so he takes me down this Pathfinder thing. And there is over 100 shallow graves. And I'm like, I first, this is how it happened, okay? So I'm hearing this female's voice, help me. And I was like, what do I do? She says, over here. And I could hear her, but I couldn't see her. I'm hearing her voice. And I said, okay, tell me what I got to do, where I got to go. So she told me where to go. And she says, right there, that's where it's at. Now dig. And she's telling me to dig. So I start digging. And just like the boy, I get this burst of energy again. And so I start digging. And I start digging up all these bones. And then she tells me, stop. That's enough. Stop. I said, okay. So I stopped immediately. She says, go to the dumpster. I said, what? No, I can't do that. I can't go to the dumpster. She said, there's something important in there. Please help me. I said, okay, I'll do it. So then she wants me to jump in this dumpster. So I jump in, and there's several phones in the dumpster in a box. And then there was notepads of markings and several boxes that were ordered. There was people phone numbers and all of these people's names and ages and, oh my God, a lot of freaking information. So I call 911, and this same guy that showed up before shows up again with this forensics guy. And he says, isn't this the same girl that called before for we thought was a Halloween prank? He said, yep, this is her. And he says, well, now I have to tag you. I said, remember what you told me? He said, what? I said, you told me if I touch the bones, you can mark me or tag me. He said, you remembered that? I said, yeah. He said, well, you're a very smart lady, so what did you do about them bones? I said, I grabbed a trash bag. He started laughing. All I had was a Walmart bag to dig them up without touching the bones. So he was like, well, I can't tag you. He says, I have to tag somebody. So he tagged my husband, who was abusive. He had several calls with my husband about him being abusive and stuff. So he was like, you got me tagged. I said, I'm sorry. I said, but I had to call because this lady, is telling me from the grave, And he was very, very abusive. But the officer, I took him to the trash can. He says, oh my God. He says, you know what? He says, let's get the phones. He says, these are, I forget what he called them, but boxes and orders. And the guy says, why would somebody need almost 1,000 boxes? He says, bodies. He says, whoever this person is the one who's doing these murders. And he buries them in shallow graves. And he says what happens is when it rains, if they're not buried 6 feet under, that their bodies will rise to the top every time it rains, the body moves further to the top of the surface. That's why they're called shallow graves. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he was like, so where's the spirit of the body that told you to dig them up? So I took him over there. He says, and these are the bones? I said, yep. So he picks up one, the forensic guy. He says, that's a femur. That's a woman's femur. He said that woman must have been at least 14 years old. And he was like, so where's all these shallow graves? And I had to take him to all of these shallow graves. There was like over 100 graves of where these women and children were murdered, raped, and buried. So I've had a lot more than that, but a lot more experiences in my life. And yeah, and I was never told what I was until the officer told me. I was like, well, that's what my mama is. He was like, so your mama never told you? I said, no. I said, but then again, I was like 5 and, up, but nobody had ever told me. So I didn't really know what I was. I just felt different. So, yeah. Had a lot of things happen. I could have ended up tagged for murder like twice, but thank God I wasn't, because I didn't do it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's crazy. I see Lyrics Hill 3861. Recap on what's going on. Just saw you was on. Let's see. Yes, ma'am. I never knew I was, but trippy things have happened in my life that people just probably wouldn't even believe. Yep. So that is what's happened. You definitely feel a connection with me. It's very strange. It's not a bad thing. Like, yeah, as a reader, I feel a connection. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, there's certain people that, certain readers and even the collectives will like connect with, or even readers and other readers will connect with. But man, yeah, I had a lot of stuff happen. I know one time I was like 5 years old, and this voice is telling me, do you want your grandpa to die? And I'm like, no. He says, let me show you something. Go to your Uncle Danny's room. So I go to my Uncle Danny's room, and there's a pistol on his bed. And he says, do you see that gun? I said, yeah. He said, let me show you what's going to happen. I saw my cousin go in there, grab the gun off the bed, and shoot my grandpa in the head. And my grandpa died in his recliner. And he says, do you want your grandpa to die like that? I said, no, I love my grandpa. He said, then do what I tell you. He says, go pick the gun up. I said, no, I can't. I said, I'm little. I'm not supposed to touch that gun. He says, if you don't touch that gun, this is what's going to happen. And he showed me again. So I go, I pick the gun up. He says, that gun, if you pull that trigger, will kill someone. Keep your finger off of that until I tell you to put it on there. I said, okay. He says, now turn around. And I'm in the doorway, so I have to turn around. He says, now wait. And I was like, what am I waiting for? So my Uncle Danny comes in. Brandy, put that gun down. Put that gun down. So this voice is telling me, you have to teach him a lesson that he can't leave his gun laying down around kids because somebody could get shot. So basically, I had to put fear in him. But it wasn't me. It was God telling me what I have to do to put that fear in him so he'll lock his gun up. And so he says, when I tell you, I want you to pull your arm up and have that gun pointed straight at his chest. So he's telling me to hold my hand out like this. So he was like, okay, now lift your hand up right to his chest. So I'm pulling this gun up. He says, you cannot laugh. You have to be serious or your grandpa's dead. So I'm being serious and I'm pulling it up. He says, when I tell you, I want you to put your finger on that trigger. He says, now, put your finger on that trigger. He says, Brandy, put that gun down. Brandy, listen to me, Brandy. If you don't put that gun down, if you pull that trigger and you shoot me, I'm dead. I'm dead. I am dead. Do you hear me? I will die. I will not be here no more. And so the voice is telling me, okay, he's scared now. He said, but it's not enough. Lift the gun up and point it straight at his head. So I lift it up. He says, oh my God, I'm dead. I'm going to die. Oh my God, I'm going to die. So he turns around, Dad, she's going to shoot me. I'm dead. So my grandpa says, what's going on? And he says, Brandy, she's got my gun. She's going to shoot me. I'm dead. I'm going to die. And my grandpa came over there. He says, now, Danny, how did she get your gun? He said, I left it on the bed. He said, you are not, he says, any adult knows you can't leave your gun lying around when you know there's kids in the house. Is your gun on safety? He says, no, Dad, it's not on safety. If she shoots me, I'm dead. He says, now, hold on. And he says, Brandy, he says, do you love your papa? I said, yes, Papa. And the voice says, do not hand that gun to anyone until I tell you to. And I'm saying, okay. And my grandpa says, now, you love your papa? I said, yes. He says, I love you too. If you love your papa, he says, then you give that gun to your Uncle Danny. The voice says, don't give it to him yet. And I said, okay. So then my grandpa tells my Uncle Danny, he says, now put your hand out. And then he puts his hand out. He says, now, Brandy, place that gun in your Uncle Danny's hand. So I just stood there. I'm waiting for this voice to tell me what to do. He says, now go ahead and put the gun and do what your grandpa said. Place that gun in your Uncle Danny's hand. So I did. And before I did what the voice told me to do about all of that, he said what was going to happen to me was going to be very bad. So he did tell me that I was going to be beat really bad for that. And that my step-grandma was going to come in there and beat me really bad. All over my body, front and back, right? So what happened was, my grandpa took his belt off. He called my step-grandma in there and told her to give me 5 licks with the belt. She comes in, she slams the belt down after she folds the belt. She said, I ain't whooping you with that. And she shut the door and made me take all my clothes off and lay on the bed on my back. And she beat me all over the front top of my body with a metal curtain rod. It was ripping flesh out of my skin. I had big, long whelps all over me. They were whelped out of my skin. Then she tells me to stand up, even though I'm in pain. I had to stand up, and then she whipped me all over the back of my body. I had all of these whelps, bruises, everything. Then she told me to put my clothes on, and I'm to hide all of those whelps and markings, and that I cannot show them to my mom or my dad, or she's going to beat me like that again. And so I had to hide it all. And yeah, so she beat me with that. And the metal curtain rod, she put it back up there. And I'm not supposed to say anything to my mom, my dad, nobody. And, you know, the voice told me that after she beat me like that in my old age, he'll make sure that those markings are not on me. Those markings that she put on me would come upon her in her old age. So what happened was I ended up going home, and I couldn't even get out of the vehicle. I was hurting. So I was like, okay, Mama, I'll come out. And my mom goes to grab my arm, and I was like, oh, like that. And I started crying. But I was trying to hold it back, but I was hurting really bad. So my mom was like, are you okay? I said, yeah, Mom. Yeah, I'm okay. I said, I just need to go in, Mom. And she said, no, something's wrong. And she pulls up my sleeve. She says, oh, my God, you go get in the bathroom right now. Take all your clothes off. So I was, like, embarrassed. And I already knew if she finds out, I'm going to get beat again. So my mom kept asking me, who did this to you? Who did this to you? And I told her. And I said, if you say anything, she said she's going to beat me all over my body like that again. So she takes me over there to my grandpa, and she's yelling at my grandpa about what happened to me. And he said, I told her to give Brandy 5 licks with the belt, not to beat her all over her body. And then he tells me, he says, so do you want me to beat her like that, like she did you? And I said, no, Papa. He says, why? I said, because I said, I don't want her to hurt like I did. And I said, she will get hers when she sees Jesus. He says, she's going to get hers now. But he goes in there and he said, what did she beat you with? And I said, that curtain rod up there, Papa. So he grabs it, and that white curtain had my blood all over it. The curtain rod was a white curtain rod, all bent up. It had my skin, my flesh was all ripped out of my body. It was all over the curtain rod, and it had blood all over it. But yeah, so my grandpa asked me, years later, he had asked me why I did that, and I told him what Jesus, told me. He said, you did that because God told you I was going to get shot by that gun? I said, yeah. He said, and she turned around and beat the hell out of you. My grandpa felt so bad. He ended up kicking her. What he did that day after she did that to me, he kicked her out of the house, and yeah, he made her leave because I was his granddaughter. I was his half pint. He called me half pint. But yeah, he kicked me out, or kicked her out, I mean. Yeah, but I've had other things happen. I was at the lake. This girl was drowning, and God told me what to do. This girl was like way, way bigger than me. I'm this little bony thing, and she was like almost 200 pounds. But she would have drowned me. So the only way I could do it is God told me I had to grab her collar of her shirt and pull her, but I had to hold her up. After I took a breath, I had to go under, and then I had to swim as fast as I could towards bank with one arm, 2 legs, and then I'd have to pull my arm down just a little bit where her head's still over water so I could go to the surface and get an air and then go do it again. But I ended up pulling that girl to the bank or she would have drowned. And then her family was like, oh my God, that's our only daughter. She would have died. And he said, and you went to do that, and she's way smaller than you. You should have drowned. I said, but Jesus told me what to do so I wouldn't die, and so she wouldn't die. And he said, you risked your life to save our daughter? And I said, yeah, because I didn't want her to die alone. So I went to pull her to the bank so that she wouldn't have to die alone if that meant I had to die with her. But so I did try to save her, which I ended up pulling her to the bank. I didn't know if I was going to die or not, but I was trying as hard as I could to save her and myself. But I cared more about saving her, really more so than myself. But her family ended up coming over there because we was at the lake, and they came over to give us all their food and stuff before they left, and I kept saying, no, I don't want it. I don't want it. I said, I didn't do that so you would give me something. I did that because Jesus told me to. And he said, well, Jesus might have told you to do that, but we're still leaving this with your family. He said, we can't thank you enough for saving our daughter. That's the only daughter we have. So that girl kept saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think she was like 8, but she kept saying she was drowning. And everybody was laughing at her like she's really not drowning. The girl didn't really know how to swim, and she ended up on the deep end. And they had taken their eyes off of her, and she almost died. And then there was another time I got bit by a snake. And I was too far from the camping grounds. So, the Spirit's telling me, don't run fast, walk very slow. Because if you walk fast, you're going to speed your heart up and you're going to die. So walk slow, breathe slow, and listen to my voice. And then I'm hearing this voice that says, go lay down. You're tired. Go lay down. Go lay down. You see that ditch over there? Go lay down in that ditch. So the other voices tell me, if you hear that voice that's talking to you, I said, yeah. He said, it's not me. He said, you don't listen to that voice. He said, that voice is the devil. He's telling you go lay down in that ditch so you'll die. If you lay down in that ditch, this is what's going to happen. And then I saw myself die in the ditch. And my dad had to verify my body. And my parents were really sad. He said, you want that to happen? I said, no. He said, then listen to my voice. So then I finally got there. And the voice is telling me to go to my mom. So my mom was cooking. So she's like, Brandy, I don't have time right now. Because she was real busy. She had 5 kids. So then he tells me to go to my dad. So I went to my dad. And he didn't have time. I think he was talking to my mom or something. So the voice tells me, go back to my mom again. So I was like, Mom. And he said, talk calmly to your mom. Tell her you got bit by a snake. And I said, okay, Mama, I got bit by a snake. And I was trying to talk calmly and quietly so that my heart wouldn't race, and speed up. So she looks down, oh my God, Jackie, get over here. I need a rope. I need a string. And we were way too far from the hospital. If we'd have made it, the doctor said if we'd have tried to make it to the hospital, I would have died. So my mom grabs this string. She heard it from her grandpa. She grabs all she had was like my dad's boot string, his shoelace. So she grabs that, ties it around my leg, and all he had was a pocket knife. So she lanced it open and sucked the poison out. And the doctor said that's what saved my life. So, while I'm sitting there on the ground, I'm like passing out and I told Mama, said, oh, wow, Mama. She says, what? I said, do you see all those angels? She says, angels? What angels? I said, they're up there in the clouds. She said, what are they doing? I said, they're smiling. She says, oh, well, they're probably happy. They're probably proud of you. She said, what else are they doing? I said, they're waving at me and they're telling me to come home. She slaps me in my face because I'm like dawning out at this time. So I'm like passing out. I passed out like 3 times. So she slapped me once to bring me back, slaps me again, and slaps me one more time. And she says, look at me, Brandy, look at me. And then my dad came over there and he's like, Brandy, do you love your dad? I said, yeah, Daddy, I love you. He says, then don't look up there. Don't look around. Look at me. Keep your eyes on me, okay? I said, okay, Dad. He says, don't go to sleep. Look at me. Do you hear me? Look at me. So I'm looking at my dad. And after she sucked it all out and everything, I ended up fine. And when I looked up, all those angels I saw were gone. So they all like disappeared. But yeah. I've also been able to like smell spirits, feel spirits. I feel certain things. They try to talk to me sometimes to tell me what happened to them when they died, or show me where they were buried or murdered and stuff like that. But yeah, I've had some crazy things happen in my life, but I never knew, though, when I was younger, I never knew that I was like clairvoyant or medium till that officer told me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's what my mama is. So yeah. Sure if you did or not, but something is telling me there's something about a closet or stairs. Yeah, well, I did have something to do with stairs, but that wasn't me. That was my sister. My sister did something to me with stairs. But that wasn't me. And that had nothing to do with like my gifts or nothing like that. And the closet, everybody, when people are like, when you're like young, okay, there's a lot of kids who's like fearful of closets and stuff. But yeah, I've had certain things happen, but nothing like these major things that, I just talked about. So yeah. Those are like the main things of my life, though. And that actually led up to that. And see, when I was little, I was like 5 years old, my grandma gave me these tapes that helps to open your mind's eye. and helps you become a clairvoyant or medium. And these were real old tapes. Back then, you had to buy them from like New York. Today, they're probably like $200-300 for the whole set. These were cassette tapes, and you lay down, and what it does is it puts you in this outer body experience, and it's like hypnotizing. And I do know how to do this hypnosis. So what it does is it puts you in a dream state of hypnosis, but then they always bring you back. But you got to be very, very careful on who's doing that, because some people can put marks in your brain. And they can put negative influences in your head when they do that if you go to the wrong person. So I have put people under hypnosis, but in a positive way. Nothing negative, but yeah, I've had people that actually tell me, well, you can't do that with me. I can't be put under hypnosis, blah, 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 blah. Nobody's ever been able to do this. And so whenever I did it, bam, they passed out. And whenever I told them, okay, now I'm going to wake you up when I clap. And as soon as I clap, bam, they wake up. And they're like, oh my God, are we done? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, how long has it been? And, it hadn't really been that long. But they felt like they were asleep for like a long time. And it really wasn't a long time. But yeah, I have done that. But then I've had people who were like, well, how long have I been out? And they'd been out for a while, but to them it felt like just a few minutes. So everybody's different when they go through this hypnosis, but I have done that before. Okay, I see here. Please vote for Poland. They call me Gaja. Eurovision Song Contest, okay? And then we see, let's see, this is Mafo X. The competition takes place today, May 17th, 21 European time. Win Song Contest. Yes, no. All right. So, yeah. That's actually how I got to where I am now with, and see, I had a sister-in-law who got these cards, and, she went to talk to my mom about me buying these cards from her. My mom was like, Brandy ain't gonna buy them cards. And she was like, well, I'm gonna ask her anyway. She said, you can ask her, but more than likely she ain't gonna buy those cards. So I came over, she calls me back there to her room, and she's like, hey, can you come look at these? I was like, okay. So I was like, what is this? She was like, this is cards. And I was like, what do you mean cards? She was like, tarot cards. Because I thought she was talking about like game cards or something. I was like, if these are game cards, I don't want them. She says, no, they're not game cards. Are these like poker cards? She was like, no. She was like, these are tarot cards. Totally different. I said, what do you mean? She was like, well, some people call them like spiritual cards. And I was like, spiritual? Okay. She was like, well, and I was like, why are you asking me about them? She was like, well, I told your mom, that I was going to ask you to see if you wanted to buy any of these. She says, I'll give you these if you'll buy this deck from me. So I had to buy one deck, but she gave me several decks. And I opened some of them up. I started looking at them. And first I had opened up like the oracle ones. And I was like, no. I said, I don't know. I don't know if I really want these. And then she was like, well, what about these? And she hands me the tarot cards. So I open them up and I'm looking at them. And I was like, hey, these have Christian symbols on them. She says, yeah. I said, huh. And I'm looking at them. I said, you know what? I said, something's telling me to get these cards. And she says, oh, it's probably because you're holding that deck. I said, what deck? She says, those tarot cards. She says, a lot of people say those are powerful. I said, really? I said, huh. So then I looked down. I was like, you know what? I'll take all of them. She said, really? I said, yeah. So I ended up, I think I paid like $20 for like one deck. And all the rest of them, it was either 10 or 20, I can't remember. But then she gave me all those other decks for free. So she was like, do you know how to read those cards? I said, no, but I'll find out. So she was like, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to study and I'm going to learn about them. She said, are you going to use them? I said, first I got to find out what they mean, and I got to learn every single thing about these cards before I do anything with these cards. So I didn't know what they were. I didn't know if they were good or bad. So I had to, it was an experience I had to find out on my own. And I had to do a lot of research every day. Every day I was researching everything, learning about these cards. So when I first looked up on the High Priestess and I seen that word Torah, first thing I did was like Google Torah. So Torah being the old scrolls, right? Which is the Old Testament. A lot of people don't know that. So when I seen that, I was like, oh my gosh, these are not evil cards. These are like the Bible. So then that's how I found out that when you put those cards together, those decks, it denotes the name Yahweh, which is YHWH, Yahweh. And so when you keep them in order and you go to do a reading for somebody, if they're in order by the name Yahweh, they're getting their own personal reading. It's going to be correct every time. But like when you go live and you're reading for a whole bunch of people, you still got to put the cards in order. If not, you're mixing up the name Yahweh, and it gets all mixed up. And when you go to read for several people every day and the cards are never being put in order, you're getting all of those energies into those cards, negative, positive, all of these energies. When you put them in order, that cleanses the cards from those negative energies you just read from. That putting them in order is way more important than just cleansing them with smoke or Palo Santo, sage. You can say your prayers, but if it's out of order, the name Yahweh's not in order. So that's where my spirit guides led me, is to making sure the cards are always put in order. So every time I read a deck for someone, I won't read that same deck I just read for someone for somebody else until I put that deck in order. So that's where I've been led anyway. So looking at your video, you look really familiar, and I cannot place you. I've seen you somewhere before. I do know a lot of people says they've seen me, and like I've got lots of twins floating around out there. So I do know my Aunt Patricia. My Aunt Patricia looks a lot like me. She's a CNA. I'm also a CNA. I just haven't worked as a CNA for a lot of years. I do have a degree in psychology. I just don't, I don't really do that. But I have helped people a lot, talking to them and kept them from suicide just by talking to them. So I was, going to school to be a psychiatrist, and that's what I was going to do with psychology. But yeah. Let's see. I've seen you on the internet. I just can't place. Okay, so Instagram. I am on Instagram. I do have a page on Facebook. I do know my Instagram account. I have done readings on there. There might be some live. There may not. Most of mine are like music videos for the cards. That's what I've done also. Meant to say place you. Okay. Yeah, Instagram, maybe X. I am on X, which is what, Twitter now? Actually becoming a licensed clinical social worker. Oh, wow. Okay. But I thought about getting my PhD in psychology. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That is so cool. I have had several opportunities, several people offer me a job as a social worker. That's not something, I ever wanted to do. I was leading more towards like psychology because I love helping people. I love talking to people, love communicating with people. And plus, that's more like spiritual grounds because you really hit home with like psychology. So, yeah, yeah, it hits home for me and becoming a psychologist. But at 421, I really don't know if I want to do that. I would pray about it. I would pray about it, but yeah, psychology, man, I love that. I love psychology. So that's what I did. I went to school to get my degree in psychology. Um, and my psychiatrist or my teacher, okay, that was teaching me all about this um, psychology, right? So my teacher was like, out of all the students he had over the years, I was like the best one he had, just because of my grades. I had the best grades than all of his students. And he was like, so I have this test that I want you to take. He says, but there's a downfall to this test. I said, what's the downfall? He said, if you take this test and you don't pass it, you can never be a counselor in any schools, anywhere. You can never be a psychiatrist or psychologist. I said, okay. He says, so that's the downfall. I said, but what if I pass it? He said, well, I believe, if you take this test and you pass it, you could go really far in life. He said, a lot of doors are going to open up for me if I could do this. And I said, do you think, of all the students you've had, do you think I can pass that test? He said, I honestly believe you will pass this test. He said, every test I've ever given you, you got 100%. You never missed one. I said, what about all your other students? He said, well, they usually, miss 2 or 3. He says, I've had those who've missed a lot more. I did have those who thought they could take that test. He said he didn't provide that test to them because he didn't think they would pass it. He said, and I told them that. He said they took the test, they didn't pass it, and they can never be a counselor anywhere. They can never work with people. So I was like, and you think I can pass this? He said, yeah, I really, really believe you can pass it. He says, now the downfall. He said, there's one more downfall to this. He said, you can't miss more than 3 or you're out. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. He said, you really take this test? And I was like, yeah, I'll take the test. If you believe I can pass it, then I'm taking this test. I took it and I passed that test. So I did go to like Big Brothers and Sisters because I wanted to work there. This lady got so excited. I took in my degree and she called my teacher. And she says, so what did she get on her scores? So he told her that I didn't miss any. She said, I took that same test and I missed 3. He said, well, ma'am, honestly, I took the test myself and I missed 2. He said, I've never had a student that actually took the test and didn't miss any until her. She's my first. He said, she's very, very smart, very intelligent. She would make a very good candidate for your business. This lady was so excited because she said all the people she had working for her, none of them had a score that high to back them up. So she was going to give me like the biggest office in the building. So yeah, I told her, that I was feeling led to go there because I wanted to help people. So I told her that there's a certain way you can match people together, and it'll either be negative or positive. And she says, so how would you go about doing it? And I said, well, I would have to get to know both of them, and I would have to ask a lot of questions. I said, if there's anything that either one of them don't like, then it's going to cause a conflict. I said, so I would have to know both of them personally as a big brother or sister, right? In order to put, or as a worker for them, to place them together. And she was like, oh my God, nobody's even ever broke this down for me before. So I was like the first one, but yeah, she was so excited to even have me there. But yeah, yep. And my, teacher was like, I know you'll pass this. And I did. I took the test. Oh my gosh, and I passed. When I took my CNA test, a lot of people told me that they had missed like one or two or even three questions. Some of them had to go back and retest. They had to wait like 4 or 5 days to go back and retest. Um, I took the test and I didn't miss any. And a lot of people got ticked off. They were like, I tried forever to pass that test. She walks in, she one dang day, and passes the test and didn't miss any. They were so mad. I said, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I said, I just tried my best and I didn't know I was going to get that score. I jumped on the lady's lap though, but I was so excited because I didn't miss any. I really thought I'd have to come back. I said, I already know I'm going to have to come back, but at least I answered correctly and I did my best. So I ended up not missing any. Oh my. I took a test one time at Wendy's. I didn't miss any there either. I took a test at, what is that place called? Oh my God. Sitel? Yeah. And I passed. I scored real high, didn't miss any there. And a lot of those questions were really hard. They were about microchips, computer questions. And I'm being honest, I prayed before I went in and I prayed really hard. And I ended up not missing any. So, wow. Yeah. I had a lot of things happen. So Danielle says, licensed clinical social workers do therapy. That's what I'm going to school for so that I can sit in and offer psychotherapy. Right now, I'm a psychology major. In fact, wow, I just need the commencement today for my third. I graduate with my bachelor's. Wow. And now I'm on my master's. That is awesome. Congratulations, Danielle. Have you hypnotized anyone without them knowing? Without them knowing. I don't know. I probably have, not knowingly, probably done it. Or without them knowing. Not intentionally, I will say that, not intentionally. I could have done that because I've dreamed before where I dreamed I was hypnotizing people. And some of these people I knew, some of them I didn't know. But I was hypnotizing people. And so I would say in my dream state, yeah, I really have. Some of them I knew, some of them I didn't. I do know when I started first reading cards, right? The cards, and I was going live. I started calling on everybody's spirit guides and ancestors. I stopped doing that. And the reason is because I had a dream that there was, oh my God, thousands of people lined up outside wanting a reading. People who had passed on, people who were dead, people, family, friends, people I didn't even know, and their ancestors were coming to me. They kept me up till, oh my God, I can't remember exactly what time. I came on live and I was talking about it. So I told them, I said, your guys' ancestors kept me up all night wanting readings. And some of these people were dead, some of them were alive, and in their dream state asking for readings because they know how to astro travel. Oh my, which was very terrible for me because I know how to do that too. But so what my spirit guides told me is, from now on, I can't call on people's spirit guides or ancestors unless I send them back. So whenever I do call on somebody and I'm doing a live reading or whatever this is, just doing a personal or live reading, or whether that's live or not live, okay? And I call on someone's spirit guides and ancestors, I always send them back to you. Just because, that's why I always call them mine. Mine usually don't keep me up all night. They know I'm tired. They know I got a lot to do. They know how busy my life is, and they respect that. Not that everybody else's doesn't respect it, but they all just want a reading too. So, yeah, I always send them back. Oh my. Um, Another thing, I have had dreams and they happened. Like I dreamed someone shot theirself. They did end up shooting theirself. I've dreamed people died and they did end up dying. And sometimes the people I dreamed died ended up dying. Um, and sometimes it was almost like really close to what I dreamed. Almost perfect to what I dreamed. But I've had things happen. One time I dreamed I was on fire and burning and I was dying and it was dark. Come to find out I found out later. That next day I found out my cousin burnt to death in his car. But I dreamed like I was burning to death and I was in the dark. Well, what I didn't know was that night, and he hit his steering wheel or something. He ended up passing out or something like this. I don't know, something like this. But he did burn to death from his feet up. He was stuck in the car. So yeah, he did burn to death. But I dreamed it was me. Instead, it turned out to be my cousin. So whenever I have those dreams, I pray for my loved ones. Then nothing happens to any of my loved ones. I pray that God watches over them, protects them, and that the death angel won't get to them, and that anyone I know and love will be protected. And sometimes, it happens anyway. Sometimes it's out of our hands and it's just their time to go. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to go in here real quick and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. All right. So I was checking on my kiddos. They're in their beds. I think they left their TVs on. All right. All right. They turned it down. All right. So yeah, that's the story of, a lot of things that happened. My grandma, her sister passed away. And every time she came around, I knew when her spirit was there. I could hear her laughing. And I could always smell her. She always wore Vanilla Fields. I hate the smell of Vanilla Fields. So sometimes when I'm around was around my grandma when she was alive, I could smell when my grandma's sister was there. And I would be like, she's here. How do you know? I said, because I smell Vanilla Fields. And then I was like, before my grandma passed away, I was like in Lamar. And my grandma orders this pendulum. And I told her, I was like, because whenever it came, I had this feeling like it didn't want her, which is totally weird. I was like, Grandma, I don't think it wants you. She said, how do you know that? I said, I feel like it's telling me that it wants to be somewhere else. She says, well, look that up. Google that. I don't believe that. So I Google it and come to find out, stones and pendulums can choose who they want. If they don't want to be with you and they want to be somewhere else, you're going to carry negativity with you. I didn't know that, because it's resisting you. And the way to tell, if you don't know by touching it whether or not the stone wants you, you put it under your pillow. If you have a good dream, that stone chooses you, and it wants you. If you have a negative dream, that stone does not want you. And as long as you have it, negativity is going to follow you. So she was like, okay, well, who does it want? I said, I don't know. She says, hold it. I said, no, Grandma, I'm not touching that stone. And she was like, why? I said, it don't want me. She wanted me to keep it. I said, no, that thing don't want me. She said, well, who does it want? I said, I don't know. I'd have to touch it. And she's trying to put it in my hand. I'm telling her, no, no. She says, well, find out, hold it in your hand, and try to figure out who it wants. And she was like, what if you don't know who it wants? I said, well, if we can't figure out who it wants, you're going to have to give it back to the earth, bury it. So I'm sitting there holding it in my hand, and I'm like, oh my God. She said, what? I said, it wants the lady upstairs. The lady upstairs, my grandma that next morning said, she went out there, I guess, to smoke her cigarette or something. And the lady's coming downstairs. She's like, my granddaughter, I just bought this stone. And she says, the stone didn't want me. It wanted someone else. She says, well, who's it want? She said, you. She said, me? Why doesn't it want me? She said, what is it? And she was like, it's a pendulum. She says, what color is that stone? She says, purple. She about passed out on them stairs and sat down. She says, oh my God, did she really say that? It picked me? She said, yeah. She says, I've never told nobody this. My birthstone's purple. And my grandma said, oh my God. She said, well, it was meant for you. She said, I guess she was right. She says, wow. She says, so your granddaughter sees things, don't she? She says, well, yeah, she talks to dead people too. And I'm going, oh my God, Grandma, no. From inside my apartment. I'm like, no, stop. Some people, just, they don't believe in stuff like that. I started seeing doorways and stuff that used to be there. I seen that how people were cremated there in that building where I was living. The architect ended up, coming to me and showed me this portal, and told me that I was disturbing the dead because I was vacuuming. So I was like, okay, well, I still have to vacuum because I live here. And so it was really hard for me to vacuum, and it was hard to push it because it was resisting, and which made my energy drop, right? So I had to work extra hard just to vacuum my apartment. And he says, stop vacuuming. You're disturbing the dead. And then I looked around. I see all these people who died there, how they died. I'm seeing their life stories. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I said, I tell you what, if I vacuum in the daytime and I give the nighttime to you guys, will you please let me vacuum? So the architect said, as long as you don't disturb the dead at night. And I said, okay, thank you. So I could never vacuum at night. I always had to vacuum in the daytime. I did have, other stuff that had happened. Her mother ended up, she told me her mother was a shaman and that she was getting too old to do it anymore. And she wanted to leave the gift with someone. Well, I had a dream before she told me this. I had a dream her mother was blessing me with the gift of shamanism. And she says, my mother? And I was like, yeah, your mother. And I said, but I seen all of these people I've never seen before. She was like, what did some of them look like? I said, there were 3 women. She said, that one is my cousin. She passed away. The other one is my aunt. She's also dead. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she said, it's okay. It's okay, honey. She says, now, what did the other one look like? And I told her, she said, that's my mom. I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She says, "What?" I said, "You know, she's passed away too." And she says, "My mom's alive." I said, "What?" So I'm like freaking out because she's telling me her mom's not dead, her mom's alive. I said, "Well, I thought I was in spirit realm and all these dead people are surrounding me." And she was like, "You don't understand how this works." She says, "The way this works, you've never had this happen, have you?" I said, "No." She said, "My mom told me she was going to choose somebody someday." She says, "The way they choose someone, they don't even have to lay eyes on someone. They mentally will go into this trance and they mentally choose someone." And she mentally chose me spiritually, um, and was blessing me with this gift of shamanism. And she had this shell in her hand, the feather, the sage, and she was blessing me with that gift. And I said, "No, no, I already have everything else." And dead people talk to me and all kinds of stuff. I'm telling her, and now this is going to be something else. She says, "Well, honey," she said, "that's a blessing. That's a blessing." She said, "My mama wouldn't want to give that to anyone but someone like you." I said, "Why can't she give it to you or one of your daughters or one of your nieces or nephews?" She says, "Look," she says, "I'm dying of cancer. I have cancer." Um, Her husband passed away of cancer. She lost both her boys. She said, "My kids, that are alive, are not into it. Her nieces, nephews, they're not into stuff like that." And she said, "And my mom's too old to do it anymore. And she has to leave it to someone." She said, "And if she leaves it to anyone, I am glad it's you." Because she knew I didn't do black spells or magic or anything like that. She knew I tried to, be honest in everything that I do. And with everything else that I see or had been seeing and everything she was experiencing and stuff I was telling her, about her boys and stuff. So her mom said, "That's the one." And before that, though, her mom spiritually had already chose me. But she was like, "I need to meet this girl. I need to meet this girl." So when she met me, she says, "I'm bringing something back for you." She said, "I'm going to have my daughter give it to you." She comes in with all these shells and sage and feathers. Gave me 2 feathers. So I still have those 2 feathers. Um, so yeah, I've had a lot happen in my life, but I was like, man, this is going to be something else that's added to me on top of everything else, that I are going through. I've had weird dreams. About my ex. And let's just say I'm glad I'm not with them anymore. Well, I'm glad you're not too. Maybe you'll both be happier now. So, yeah, I have had a lot happen. Oh boy. I keep getting these texts from weird numbers, and they're in Spanish, guys. They're in Spanish. And I'm like, why am I getting these texts? And they're in Spanish. I don't know. Maybe it's significant for something. I don't know. All right, so if anybody wants a reading, tonight I decided to come on and try to meet my 186 mark, so that I'll be able to read for you guys. if I don't reach that mark, I don't know when I'll be able to go live. It's going to be really hard. I'll probably have to go to my mom's or something, or try to figure out how I can get this borrowed or something. I'll probably have to pay more back or something. So I don't know exactly when I'll be able to read. I may not be able to read until the 28th or after, but I don't know. We'll see, guys. I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I figured I'd just come live and see if I could, get donations maybe. I can read Spanish. I took Spanish in 4th grade. I have cousins who speak Spanish. I have cousins who's from Mexico, Honduras. So I do know how to read Spanish. I do know how to speak some Spanish. So, yeah. My niece is, she has a boyfriend who's from Guatemala. So he was trying to get his papers so that he could stay here in this country. And he knew I could speak Spanish. He knew I could read Spanish, stuff like this. So he was like, here's my papers. And he says, if I don't get these papers filled out, I get sent back. So I said, okay, let's get it done. So I'm going through all of these papers. I'm telling him what everything means. I'm asking him questions, and then I'm telling him what he needs to put in these areas, so he doesn't get sent back, because he had court coming up and this had to be done. So I helped him go over this whole application. He had done it once and he didn't do it right. He had to do it again with me. He had to do it with me again. And I told him this one spot here, I said, if you don't put it here, because this is asking for a job, I said, if you leave this box empty right here, I said, they may take it and they may not. So he turns it in. I said, just so you know, if you get denied, okay, it's going to be because of this. So he turns it in. They accepted it. Then he gets a call. They didn't accept it. And I said, did you ask them if they didn't accept it because of that job part that was left blank? He said, yeah, she told me that's why. So she said he had to do it all over again, turn it back in, and he had like a court date or something. So when he turns it in or something, it has to have like this job. It has everything on it has to be filled out, along with his job area has to be filled out too. If not, they'll send him back. He goes in and they're like, so what do you want? You want sent back? He's like, no. He says, I have papers. And he pulls up his papers. And the judge and all these guys are laughing. The people from here, they're like laughing because he's, 20-something years old. And there were 5 grown men from his country. They got sent back. 5 grown men got sent back because they didn't fill out or complete any of their application. And here's this 20-year-old boy who had his whole application filled out completely. And so they ended up not sending him back, and they ended up sending back 5 grown men. So yeah, they started laughing because he had his papers. He says, I have papers. And they were all filled out. They ended up not sending him back, but they had these 5 grown men deported. And I was like, so they sent them guys back, is what I said to him. They sent them guys back because they didn't have it turned in. They didn't have it filled out. I said, did they even have their application with them? And he says, no. And I was like, that's so sad. That's so sad. They got sent back. So they were fighting. He said a big, huge fight broke out because those guys didn't want to be, deported. And they ended up getting sent back, which is very sad because honestly, they didn't have anyone to help them. And, they speak another language for one. But they didn't even, think, to go to somebody and ask for help to fill it out, or what do I do? What has got to go here? What's got to go here? But then again, if it ain't all filled out, you get deported. So I didn't know any of that until, I had to experience it, with him. But thank God I helped him, and thank God, he didn't have to be sent back. This boy is a really, really good boy. He doesn't get into trouble. He don't do drugs. He's very, very clean. He has completed college. He's in sports. He works in construction. So, yeah. I'm just glad, that he didn't have to be sent back. So we'll just wait and see if anybody wants a reading. Now, tonight, guys, I'm coming on just till I reach this $100 mark. So I don't know exactly when it'll shut off. It may just shut off tomorrow or something. But I will try to, if nobody comes on or anything, because I know a lot of people don't have anything, to help with. So if it doesn't come on, it's all right. I'll try to figure something out. But guys, if I'm unable to come on and do these readings, I do apologize, okay? So, the AT&T people, I keep telling them I don't get paid till the end of the month, right? And they keep putting my freaking bill for the 19th. I don't know why they keep doing that. They won't change it. So they keep making it for a day I don't even get paid. So that's very complicated for me. But, yeah. Yeah, very, very complicated. Makes it hard on me because, I only get paid, at a certain time. So I was talking to the guy tonight because I didn't even know that it was due tonight. The 6th, I said the 19th. I meant the 16th, sorry. So I meant the 16th. And anyway, I didn't even know it was going to be shut off. But my nephew was like, hey, I'm having problems in here. I was like, well, I'm not. I got full bars. So I was like, you know what, forget it. I'll just go check. So I went and checked, and then I seen that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something else, guys. So, so I was talking to the guy so that I could do a payment arrangement or something. And they sent me to the correct place, but he said that wasn't the correct place. They needed to send me to something else. And by that time, I got shut off because I ended up calling when it was too late. I didn't know it was so late when I was calling. And it was after hours. So the time he was switching me, when he just switched me, then it's telling me to call at 8:00 a.m. business hours, which would be Monday. So I'm not even going to be able to call till Monday. And it may not even come back on until Monday. I don't know. I don't know how that works. I do know I could go ahead and pay it and more than likely it won't shut off as long as I pay it today. It won't get shut off. So I know I have like till midnight, but yeah. Getting paid every 2 weeks when I was getting paid every week at my last job. Oh, and now you get paid every 2 weeks? Okay. But you got paid every week at your last job. Well, you could, search around. Maybe you might end up finding something like the last job you had. Oh, I don't know. Boy, I've had that hoodie on all day. I'm like sweating now. I get really, really cold, guys. I'm like always cold. So yeah, I've had that hoodie on all day. I can't have the fan blowing in my bedroom like, most people would have a fan blowing. If I have the fan blowing, it'll have me sick for 2 weeks. So I can't do that. And the reason it does that is because I'm allergic to the fan. So yeah, my dad, he's allergic to that too. He said he fights his though. I can't do all that. He's when he was like, found out he was allergic to pork because he'd get sick and stuff. His throat would swell up. Found out he was allergic to pork. He ate that crap anyway. Knowing he was allergic to it, he said, well, I'll fight it. So my body will gain tolerance to it so I won't be allergic to it. And I'm like, oh my God, my dad's brain is like crazy sometimes. And so he might have a point to that, fighting it off. But some people, their allergies are so bad it puts them in the hospital or they could end up dead. But he fights his allergies. He fights his allergies. Hold on. All right. Yeah, I can't do that. I'm not going to sit there and fight something I'm allergic to. So my mom did tell me before I could come over there and like read over there. But that's something I'd rather not do. Just because there's going to be like a lot of people over there. I won't get quiet time. Okay, there you go, baby. Yeah, it would probably